All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back after a long break. I was quite ill, under the weather, feeling the effects of the solar storm, whatever you want to say. I was dealing with a sinus infection and really just taking the time to heal from that. And also didn't want to sound like death on camera. So I didn't want to put that vibe out into your universe. So I'm back now. Hello. Hopefully, I will be back forever, every night now. No more illness. You might be able to tell I still sound just a little bit sick, but that's just like the nasal resonances being weird. Um yeah, you can hear my nasal passages are still a little bit like I still sound a little nasally, more nasally than usual. And also I had to take some therapeutic showers that have messed up my hairdo. So that's it's just going to be puffy. It's just going to be a big puffy 80s mess of a mullet tonight instead of the nice cool like easily sculptable clouds that you usually see. It's a bit more of a puffy cirrus type cloud on my head tonight. Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Today's Weather Tonight. I am your meteorologist for the evening, Cloud Hudson, and I am going to bring you a recap of everything that happened in the past 5 days, but also mostly focusing on what happened today. And there have been some major weather stories that have happened since then. So let me go ahead and get into it. First, I gotta make sure I add this camera. There we go. All right. Here we go. Let's dig into what major volcano news we've missed. So, big headlines are Sakurajima and Mount Ibeco. And over in Italy, the Phlegraean Fields, aka Campi Flegrei, has gone through a massive earthquake swarm. That is the most volcanically and tectonically active area of Italy that is really close to Pompeii. It's really close to Mount Vesuvius, which wiped out the city of Pompeii. This is a map of the distribution of earthquakes. It's around the fishing village of Puzzoli. Near Solfatara. And the largest one had a magnitude 4.4. And they could be felt for at least 20 kilometers out. There was approximately 150 that swarmed around on yesterday, but that has been after weeks and months of increased activity in the area. As you can see, our usual players are also pretty active right now. That includes Suino's Jima and Sakurajima. That is our top player, our top headline for yesterday's/today's news. We do have video of Sakurajima exploding here. Look at that gorgeous explosion right there on your screen, thanks to camera 1 in Kagoshima Prefecture, Japan. Let's take a look at that video. That's so cool. It's beautiful to see these classic volcanic eruptions. And I don't want to make you guys listen to me clear my throat too much, so I might mute myself in a minute if I need to clear my throat. I am still a little trying to shake my cold, sinus infection, whatever. 17th eruption recorded this year. Quite striking imagery coming out of the volcano islands out in Japan. So that is a really shallow look at what's been going on volcanically. Obviously, they're not showing Iceland's Reykjanes Peninsula as actively erupting right now, though we know that inflation data has shown that we are beyond the level where previous earthquakes have occurred. So we are waiting any day now with bated breath of when we're going to get that new volcanic intrusion there. Excuse me. Yeah, just still a little bit sick, but y'all should have heard me in the days that I missed the broadcast, because I sound a lot better now than I did then. Let's go ahead and take a look at our earthquakes. And instead of just Earthquake 3D today, I want to look at interactive earthquake browser so that we can go back and animate the quakes. You see here as we are moving into the 19th, we did get this big 5.4 up at the top of the world, North Pole area, along with 3.1s in Alaska and some decent amount of tectonic activity or seismic activity spreading through the United States around the edge of the North American Craton, which is this big chunk of northern United States and Canada. This is spreading from, through Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and into Tennessee. As we continue to march forward in time, we see our Western Pacific quakes tick up. We're looking at more and more 4.9s, 5.4s, and then we march forward in time. Again, we see a moderately deep quake near Japan, and then boom, what is this? A magnitude 6 out at the Fox Islands in the Aleutian Island chain, surrounded by some other decently sized, I believe a 5 and 2 3s on either side. Those 2 3s are flanking that one right there, and a 5.2 off the coast of Mexico. Moving forward, we see some aftershocks at a deeper depth, as well as some additional South American quakes coming in. And then we start to see almost like a ripple effect outward, more and more larger magnitude quakes making their way through the Western Pacific and Eastern Pacific equally, kind of trickling down from that Aleutian chain. So like, this happens, boom, they trickle down, and then they ricochet backwards. They start going back up into this activity zone again. And then we get more activity at the Kyrgyzstan-China border. More activity near the H-shaped plate boundary region, deep activity in the Bonin Islands, Japan region. This is around the 20th. Then as we march forward in time, we see many, many small quakes around Alaska and California, but also more quakes happening out here in central Peru, Chile, and Argentina. We see more in Java, Indonesia. Our Western Pacific hasn't been as active as our Aleutian Island chain, really, which is surprising. But then we do get another ultra deep quake out here in the Fiji Islands on the 20th. Marching forward again, we see some larger, a nice triangle trefoil pattern of 5.2s in Japan, Indonesia, and the Philippines. And also, let me not miss the 5 at the Mid-Atlantic Ridge on the 19th. That is also significant because we have also gotten, this is like the third Mid-Atlantic Ridge related quake, also one between Greenland and Canada. Then as we speed forward, we are looking at, boom, another big one out there in the Papua New Guinea region, and many still spreading across the United States. They're all in the very shallow range in the United States, but let's just play this all back again in one big loop. So you can see it boil like a kettle, and imagining these being like bigger bubbles from the kettle boiling. A lot of percolation here. Yeah, a lot spreading across the central United States. I'm actually going to zoom in on that because there's an interesting feature here that they are kind of hitting the wall of the Appalachian Mountains and going up. So, like, we've got one in Alabama, southeastern Tennessee, northeastern Tennessee, and these are also places that have been devastated by flooding and extreme weather recently, and then stretching up into northern New Jersey. Now, funnily enough, this is the pattern that extreme weather tends to take. The mountain range here kind of eats up and chews away at extreme energy changes, both seismically and atmospherically. So North Carolina being in a bit of a rain shadow, also in a bit of an earthquake shadow, where the momentum from the western part of this United States comes, kind of hits a wall and ricochets up to the next weakest point in the Appalachian Mountains, which is when you get into the intersection of the Appalachians with the Atlantic Ocean up here in New Jersey. Also, quakes all over Oklahoma, not just concentrated in one area, unlike Western Texas and Southern California, where there are pretty clear hotspots of where we've got our earthquake activity. I will take us to Earthquake 3D just to take a look in at today's quakes. Let's see. And I must have one feed not working because sometimes I can't see active volcanoes on here, but you can see active volcanoes on here today, which I love. We see the Ubinas volcano is right near where we've had all of these 5.0, 4.5s in South America. So this is near some active volcanoes, as well as up here in Ecuador, where we're having some increased activity. We are also right next to a volcano. Can't explain what's going on in the Puerto Rico area other than it being the Puerto Rico Trench. Crazy amount of earthquakes here. Not crazy, but like a large amount of quakes here in southern Mexico and into Nicaragua. We're looking at a 2.7. That was the one here, northeastern Tennessee. That was at 12 kilometers depth. And then as we get into New Jersey and it looks like Connecticut, we are getting that momentum translated across the country. That momentum, of course, coming from all of this. If you added up the magnitudes of all of these, if you added up the power that all of those went together, they would be several large quakes or a really big one. But since we have many different places for the since there are many different locations that feel the tremors throughout the highly fractured bedrock of the Western Rockies and the Sierra Nevada mountains, we don't get it concentrated. So fortunately, it dissipates. unfortunately, for the eastern part of the country. Sometimes those are just timed exactly right to reconverge and end up giving us like a 3.4 in Texas, or giving us 2.7 or 2.1 out here out east. Now, Alaska has been shaking and quaking off the chart, not off the charts really, but there are remarkable amounts of earthquakes happening up here. And this is all happening as this area is going through probably its warmest spring on record, as the permafrost thaws, and as just the normal winter frost thaws up here in Canada. This is also causing zombie fires in Canada, which you didn't know that was a concern. But yes, there are zombie fires, which are fires that go dormant during the winter when there's snow on top of them, but kind of get locked in as if it's a campfire inside of an igloo. Those embers get locked into snowpack, and then in the spring, when the snow melts, there's the fire again. So that is going on in Canada. Also, really interesting to see these top of the world quakes, this 4.5 and the 4.1. Oh, you're not gonna, can you cooperate, please? Thank you. Let's see. Those aren't recent though, so that was an error that they showed. Outlook. Oh, go to my today Outlook, please. Well, we had a 5.5, a larger roundup than I wanted, and I can't exactly get my sliders right. But these are definitely in the 5 days since I've left you guys. This is what's been going on. Several around Antarctica, several around the North Pole, many in our regular earthquake strike zones. So, and again, of course, our big flare up in Italy and in Greece. So let's move on so I don't completely lose my voice, to talking about our atmosphere. I just want to check in. How you doing, chat? Bad world, but oh man, can't believe John Green is single-handedly ending tuberculosis. Okay. Okay. So here we go. We have had quite the weather weekend. So initially, let's see, Monday, we had a mile-wide wedge tornado tear through a relatively rural area in Oklahoma. Then yesterday, we had an extreme weather as a derecho by now, but it's one of those things like the Fujita scale, the F scale for rating tornadoes, where you need to take a look at the data after it's already occurred in order to make the call whether this counts as a derecho or not. But whatever happened, we had up to 200-mile-per-hour winds in some places in Iowa yesterday. That is bonkers high winds. That is extreme. Like the peak of the eye wall level winds of a large category hurricane. That is not unheard of in these mesoscale convective systems, but they definitely are. It's definitely a bad sign. You can see there are still power outages throughout much of southeastern Iowa. This is where we saw the majority of our tornado outbreaks yesterday. And I will go to storm reports in a minute. But our remnants of that system are currently causing trouble up here in Quebec, in Canada, all the way through to Toronto and the Great Lakes region, looking at severe thunderstorm warnings in near Erie, Pennsylvania, and flooding risks near Cleveland, Ohio. We've also got some severe weather moving, or just regular rain, but potentially severe weather moving through the southern Appalachians up here in Johnson City, all the way to West Virginia, Lewisburg, going through Wytheville and Jefferson National Park in Virginia. We've got 2 flood warnings there. We've also got some pop-up thunderstorms out here, but our main player tonight is here in Arkansas, the Arklatex region, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas, moving into Mississippi in the overnight hours tonight. You can see it's leaving in its path a wake of power outages. That's what these thicker bordered outlines mean on my map. We've got multiple tornado watches and severe thunderstorm warnings. Thankfully, we don't have any active tornado warnings at the moment. But we are still looking at, some pretty major wind speeds, some pretty fast-moving storms. And some storms moving in the direction of their orientation, which is cause for flooding concerns, and especially around the areas that are, near major rivers. Those flooding concerns can back up into tributaries and stuff really fast. Let's see. We also have more circulation, more activity coming in Minnesota, or not Minnesota, Montana, and southern Idaho. But that is actually probably a good thing, in my opinion, because these areas in the upper plains have been dealing with the fallout from Canadian wildfires. And I don't mean nuclear fallout, I mean just the wildfire smoke. So it would be good if we got some humid air in there for cloud formation in order for that wildfire smoke to become condensable and trapped by water molecules and not inhalable. It'd be great if the wildfire smoke can turn into rain clouds instead of poisonous gases. It's not necessarily poisonous gases, but it is particulate sizes so small that it would get deep into the lungs and cause long-term irritation. So that is what's going on currently for our terrestrial atmospheric weather. Let's go now to look at those. Let's look at those storm reports for today. All right. Storm reports are mostly high wind reports, as this is an extremely fast-moving system. Like yesterday, it wasn't just that the tornado itself was made out of 90-mile-per-hour wind speeds. The tornado itself was moving at 90 miles per hour, which is really fast for a storm to be moving. That is like moving several miles, like big swaths of area within one radar scan. That makes it a lot harder to predict its path, a lot harder to communicate its active destruction. This is just today's severe weather outbreak, which has been a lot less than yesterday's. Let's take a look at yesterday's storm reports. As you can see, heavily concentrated up here in the Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin region, even upper, like northwestern Illinois, and stretching down into Missouri, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, and a few reports down in Texas. But we're looking at lots of giant hail. This one rogue storm in Texas had reports of 3-inch hail. That is larger than a baseball. That's like softball size hail. We also had 29 tornado reports yesterday. One of them, unfortunately, leveled a huge swath of the town of Greenfield, Iowa. So there are lots of active recovery missions going on in that area as we speak. Lots of damaging hail reports, a lot of high wind reports, like not just wind, but high wind. Extreme wind reports. And that wasn't even the only day we had that in the interim. On the 20th, we also had this big swath of Nebraska tornadoes and high wind reports. Then as we march back over the weekend on the 19th, we had a severe weather outbreak in Kansas and Oklahoma with 17 tornadoes reported. Winds not quite as widespread, but definitely damaging winds were present. And then also back on the 18th, we had a pretty calm day, so didn't miss out there too much. Now, let's take a look at our Schumann resonances. And for that today, I've got a new feature. I've got my handy dandy secondary computer here that I am using to broadcast my Schumann Resonances app. So this is an app that compiles the data from the Tom Skresha station and the Sofon, not the Sofon Hungary station, the Cumiana, Italy station. So this is what today's report looks like. Currently, we are looking at right before 0 UTC. Right before 0 UTC today, we had a little signature right here. Do you see this weird little blip? That is something that geophysicist Stefan Burns has noted as a potential pre-earthquake signature. So let's keep an eye on the earthquakes as we go forwards. Last night and yesterday, we had a lot of, well, really today and yesterday, we had a lot of high energy transmission bursts, some whiteout conditions on the Schumann resonances. Let's take a look at our archives, though. This is why I pulled this up. So we've got both the sonogram and the amplitude for each day, and you can kind of see the like trend in screen. You can see the power bursts marching across as I scroll backwards. Shows today corresponding power levels that went with all of those bursts. I'm actually going to turn frequency, or those are the frequencies, not the power levels. This is the amplitudes, but I'm going to turn those off so we can see the spectrograms a little better. So each day we've had a pretty for the past 3 days, we've had a pretty decent power burst, kind of regularly. But then as we go back to the 19th and 18th, it looks like we had some, calm for what we've been seeing conditions in our Schumann resonances. But the day that I got sick was really, we had, and I mean, on the 15th too, there were big downloads of information, or big spikes in the Schumann resonances. Then we had a relatively calm phase as I was in my nocturnal cocoon phase of healing. Sunday, we get into the area of starting to get those big power bursts again. And I'm going to show you the amplitudes that went with those. Like getting up to, what are some of our higher power bursts? Getting up pretty high on all of these. Not the highest we've seen for these whiteout conditions, but still some decent increases in the Schumann resonance frequencies as we go back in time. Now, and you can see that the spikes in the power as they go with this, with the sonogram, not necessarily the frequencies. Now, I think, let's go back to today alone. Looked like we had big bursts around 1800 and 1400 UTC, and also the day before between 14 and 17. So kind of at the same time. Let's see. About daily spread on those. And wow, yeah, you can see amplitudes getting up into like 64, 41, 28, and 21. Those are really high for the frequencies we're looking at. So even though they're not as long distributed, these have gotten really high amplitude, really high amounts of power coming down into the Earth's level from our atmosphere. And as you can see, our frequencies have kind of recovered from the transmission of power. The transmission of power kind of bumps the frequencies down a little bit, but once we get a little bit of a breather, the frequencies bump back up usually. Okay. So that is where I'm going to leave the Schumann resonances update, because I have I've got so much to cover on this stream. I just can't get through all of it. Can't get through all of it without... Oh, yeah, there are some news stories I want to cover, unfortunately. Like, for instance, we've got in news that surprises Noah Taurus into Jupiter in Gemini season. We are starting to see the effects of this Jupiter in Gemini and or Jupiter in Uranus of the weather and the impacts that has on. I'm not saying that because I want it to happen. It's just like, and especially Jupiter, Uranus, Gemini transits. We've got Mongolian cold weather snap in late spring that has left millions of livestock dead, unfortunately. We've also got flash flooding up here in Britain. We've also got flash flooding all over the world. The global flash flooding is... it's a ridiculous amount of countries that are actively dealing with flooding disasters right now. So when the earth isn't spewing fire out of it, it is flooding. That's fun. There seems to be less and less Goldilocks zones, but there are definitely even. It's not so much that weather is. We're not seeing like every day a new storm that's like 200 miles per hour, even though yesterday we did see a 200 mile per hour reading from a tornado alone. But just the small shifts of weather happening in places where it's not supposed to be at times of the year that it's not supposed to happen. This could be a place in Mongolia that is no stranger to snow, but they are a stranger to snow in late May. Yeah, right here. Rising frequency has made the lives more uncertain and difficult. This has been quite a weird spring, even in the area where I live. It's been weirdly mild, but that has caused a lot of things not to start going into their full bloom production yet. Not like really fruiting a whole lot. We're just getting different behavior from crops. And different behavior from crops means a less predictable yield, and that means a less predictable food supply for farmers and, you know, uh, people who raise livestock. And that also means less predictable food supply for everyone who eats food, which is most people. As well as, flash flooding in places like Britain and Dubai being disruption to major centers of trade and commerce. A lot of places that, I mean, it's not good, but it is a little bit, you feel a little vindicated having seen so much climate change affect most of the global poor so far. LMIC countries, lower middle income countries, are been bearing the brunt of climate change so far. It does almost, it doesn't make you happy to see it, but it almost makes you feel like, well, finally, England and the United Arab Emirates are understanding the impact of the global oil trade and everything. No, I don't think people are going to see this as a connection to believing in weather control. There's not going to be a happy medium where they realize that they have agency and their small choices they make in a day-to-day basis could add up to a global revolution of power consumption. It's a lot easier to think that you don't have control over it. It's a lot easier to think, oh, I didn't have control because my actions don't have consequences, and then shift to, well, I don't have control because somebody else controls the weather. So it's a really easy logical jump for people to make, without sitting in that juicy, complex, complicated middle zone where you realize, oh, my actions do have consequences. And that doesn't mean I should be ashamed of myself. That means I have the power to make things better. Uh, that is a hard, hard place for people to dwell in, especially if they are programmed by the global paradigm to be afraid and cower and feel that they don't have agency. Because people who feel that way are easier to control. You know, basically, if you feel like a pawn, you don't feel responsible for the actions of the king. But if you feel like each player on the chessboard is an equally important part of the game, then you don't get to use your lack of power as a cop out. Okay, so that's my little rant about that. Oh, I'm not connected to the internet. Did it? Oh, yes, I am. Okay. I guess I am. I'm still here. Uh, Okay, let's go now to check out our solar weather because, my goodness, we've missed 5 days of solar weather updates, so I think my charts are going to be outdated on Space Weather Live, unfortunately. Okay, why aren't we loading? Let's try. Wait. Let's try this again. Let's look at our solar weather. Oh, hold on. I think I might have to restart this page. All right. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Solar weather. Here we go. Okay. Our latest coronal mass ejections. Let's see. Oh, we've gotten a few big uns. A few big uns since the 18th. Thank goodness they're still on here. Let's take a look at that. All right. We've got a little southeastern looking launch. As we see Jupiter moving in the background. I believe that's Jupiter because that would be the one that's making a conjunction to the sun soon. The sun just passed over. No, the sun already passed that. We'll take a look at. Let me take a look at my planets at the same time. Yeah, that was Jupiter that the sun just passed in front of. So that was Jupiter that we saw on the 18th, down at the bottom of the screen, passing behind the sun there. Ooh, that was a good one. That looks like a sunflower. And by sunflower, I usually rate the petals on these coronal mass ejections. I don't know how scientific that is, or if any scientists care about the number of lobes on the bloom of the coronal mass ejection, but I think it's an interesting thing to note. Like, this looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can't even count them all. That is so many small. It's hard to define the number of lobes on that one, the number of petals in this flower. And then we see Jupiter skating across the background as the sun goes out of Jupiter's view and moves into Gemini season. That's a big one. That's a big one I bet we're going to feel soon. Because that was launched on the 20th. It's probably going to get here soon. And then right after that is probably a rating from the same one. 21st, we had another large coronal mass ejection, potential halo. Doesn't look as good, but I do see increase in proton radiation, some of that sparkliness. And then today we only had we had 11 coronal mass ejections. We've had about 40 since I took my break. So, let's see. Let's take a look at our real-time solar activity. That was just a little 3679 has been upgraded to a beta gamma delta type configuration, and those have been the most flare active for us in this year that I've been observing. 3684 and 3685 are also at a beta gamma stage, which is a pretty active type of stage. 3679 though, on its way out already, really moving fast, booking it across the sun. I didn't even get to talk about that one very much as it went. Our solar protons have gone back down to nominal, so if we get another solar proton storm, we'll notice it for sure. And we're looking to be sitting back at a C flare level instead of sitting at an M flare level, which is a good thing for solar people who are sensitive to solar storms. Though it looks like we're creeping back up now. Our most recent flare was an M4.23, and that was just like 50 minutes ago. So, and it looks like the floor level of the noise is creeping back up towards the upper C range. So we might be going, I mean, I don't think we're going back to having our baseline in the M territory like we did for the big solar storm. That's when my stream actually went blank. Here we go. Every time my internet refreshes, it kicks the camera off of my every time the camera refreshes, it kicks the my streaming from something that is web based. Okay, so all right. What I was talking about though was that we don't have any major. Can you hear me though? Somebody said voice went blank, and I know I muted myself for a second, but am I back now? Yes, because I have a mute button on my microphone that I can mute with going, and then I can unmute. It's very nice feature of this cool microphone. Okay, let's see. Yeah, let's talk about our planetary weather. Got a cradle in the and all a grand trine, and actually a cradle right here, a pentagram shape right here. This is all thanks to the moon transiting in Scorpio, which is about to be a full moon tomorrow. Moon transiting in 27 degrees of Scorpio is opposite to uh, Jupiter at 20. Jupiter Cazimi, or Jupiter conjunct Venus in Taurus at 29 degrees of Taurus. So this is the ultimate Taurus energy. This is the last day that we're going to have a Taurus stellium. We did get into Gemini season a couple days ago with the sun ingressing into Gemini. And both of these are about to put us into a 3-planet pile up in Gemini. So that's exciting. I bet that the planet pileup we saw on our solar imagery was actually the Venus Jupiter conjunction and not just Jupiter. Venus and Jupiter conjunct in the last degree of Taurus means our last big abundance of whatever those Jupiter and Taurus themes have been for the last year and a half. We've got that pretty much trine to Pluto in Aquarius, so probably going to really shift us into the season of air that we're about to get into with Gemini season. The sun is exactly trining Pluto in retrograde, of course, in Aquarius. So I think that the power of Pluto is not waning, but in the receptive mode. Um, the there are a lot of new stories about AI coming out. Like OpenAI just launched 4.0, and I think this trine between Jupiter and Venus in Taurus, trine Pluto in Aquarius, and all right there with the sun in Gemini is very indicative of this story that came out about Scarlett Johansson suing OpenAI for using her voice or casting a voice that sounds and seems like she's probably gonna degree this anaretic degree of Taurus, and that is really about getting that bag, getting that money, and we've got a south node in Libra right now, so she seems pretty set up to win that. And they definitely already said that they were not going to use the voice that sounds like her anymore. That is though. I don't know why Scarlett Johansson. I got to look at her chart to figure out why she has such feel like from this is seeming like individuals are going to win out litigiously against the coming paradigm being associated with Pluto in Aquarius, our collective knowledge and power. A new of power accessible to everyone. So a little bit egalitarian, but also um, very this is all happening also at these very late with Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces, the moon at 27 degrees of Scorpio, though that's fast moving, so that's just for today. Black moon Lilith is at 25 degrees of Virgo. All of these points creating two big cradle shapes. Cradle is this X with an opposition at its bow. That's like the hexagon of a hexagon shape. Almost, and with the mystic rectangle that is always inscribed in those, almost making it look like a Merkaba kind of popping out. And that's a whole nother thing, a can of worms to talk about. We still have Mars in Aries doing its own thing by itself, happy as a clam, but not involved in the conversations here. Not very actiony. Thankfully, we haven't had a whole lot of war action. We've had a lot of stalling in the war front right now, which I am thankful for, but no, won't last forever. Unfortunately, as soon as we start getting the sun in Gemini making more aspects to the masculine planets again, it's not going to be a great time for people in war zones. Not that it's a great time in war zones anyway, but it's not going to be as peaceful as we've had for the past 2 weeks. Let's see. What else do I want to note about this? Oh, yeah. It is a Mercury day and a Mercury hour. I started the broadcast in a Mercury day and a Venus hour. We are in sun opposition moon within 5 degrees, so we're within orb of the full moon. The full moon's about to happen in Sagittarius and Gemini, which will be a big drying shakeup to our earth and water feminine type energy that we've been dwelling in with this 5-planet pile up in Taurus that just ended. We only have a 4-planet stellium in Taurus right now, but we are now in Gemini season, so I don't think it will like season until we get this Venus ascension to shift into exactly applied yet. I mean, those will conjoin right there in the anaretic degree of Taurus and then shift into Gemini. So, Gemini, 3rd house, local neighbor, small group, like your Bible study versus your church sermon. I think of Gemini as your Bible study and your Sagittarius as your church sermon, or Gemini as your local choir and Sagittarius as your pop star. Like, they're two sides of the same coin of mutable masculinity or mutable air and fire. The cult, the religion, the organized religion, or even the street smarts versus the academic smarts. There all kinds of knowledge and expansion. Also travel, probably going to be huge for people in June. I'm anticipating more and more headlines about airplanes as well. Unfortunately, probably going to get some really unfortunate news about airplanes. It's just a gut feeling I'm getting from this full moon, and maybe next new moon. Why I'm saying that, I can't exactly delineate for you other than our really depressed retrograde Pluto in Aquarius, our newfound re-energization of the air signs with our new Gemini season coming, and a full moon in Sagittarius, which has been pretty what I'd like to. Oh yeah, here are significant degrees. I never run through those for y'all. Maybe I should. I don't know. Drop that in the chat if you think I should run through significant degrees. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. I have been gone because I was under the weather. I'm feeling a little better now, but as you can tell, I still sound a little bit sniffly. I'm trying not to gross y'all out too much, so I did take a good long rest in order to I know, right? I don't know why I'm freezing so much. Let me try closing some of my other connections. Here. Okay. I don't know why taking my sweater off would help, but maybe if I'm less hot, it won't be as bad. Let's see. I did have a different, maybe it was from me having my Schumann resonance app streamed from a different computer. Maybe that was using the bandwidth too. I don't know. I have had some issues with the stream tonight. Yesterday, I also was going to stream yesterday, but the computer just said no. So let's go ahead and so our recap is big earthquakes. Big earthquakes happening around Mount Vesuvius. Or really more specifically, Campi Flegrei in Italy. Cool explosive volcanoes happening in Japan. A big swarm of larger magnitude earthquakes all over the globe. We had a 6.0 in the Aleutian Islands a few days ago. We've had a few coronal mass ejections, but not too much from the sun recently. And we've had in the past 3 days regular bursts of Schumann resonance power downloads from the ionosphere down to the Earth's surface. And of course, we've had some extreme, wild weather globally. Many areas are flooding or snowing in the middle of spring and summer. And yeah, just weather happening where it shouldn't be and when it shouldn't be. We had up to a 200 mile per hour wind reading out of a tornado in Iowa yesterday, and that was a tornado that was moving at 90 miles per hour. Now those might just sound like numbers, but that's like a hurricane coming out of nowhere. That's like a normal thunderstorm having hurricane force winds, and not just hurricane force at a low level, hurricane force at a really high level. Like, just imagine a regular thunderstorm, and then all of a sudden it's as strong as a hurricane. That is the kind of severe weather that we've had this weekend. Let's see. What else did we talk about? Oh yeah, we talked about climate change. I talked about there are so many floods everywhere. There's just so many floods everywhere that I can't keep up with it. Afghanistan, Kenya, England, Brazil, the US. I think in Vietnam is experiencing both drought and wildfires and flooding. Really, really wild weather happening globally. Okay, so with all of that, we are in the last few days of Taurus, the last few days of a Taurus stellium. We're in the beginning stage of Gemini season, with the sun having the vibe is for closing out that very heavy 5-planet stellium Taurus season and moving into a new phase, a masculine sign Gemini season. Let's see what our cosmic weather is for that. Of course, we're going to thank my crystals for protecting my cards, being, I think, all cards should have a little rock friend. I think all plants should have a little rock friend. Yeah, that I don't know what my justification for that is other than intuition. I just think all things need a little rock friend. Okay. Let's do first, let's get a card pulled from our tarot to describe the collective vibes of the cosmos right now. What's coming in? What's the vibe? What's the vibe out there in the level of the universe that is beyond our solar system, planets? What's the energy coming in from places that we can only sense on a quantum, vibrational, esoteric, non-material type of sensing way? What is that energy coming in? For me, for the people in chat, and also for everyone who's going to watch this eventually. Maybe get a little sloppier with it. Someone will jump out. I think this wants to jump out. Ooh, Page of Cups. Page of Cups. Upright. So something is coming from something's coming from the depths, from the subconscious. I think oh man, I still see my connection cutting out all the time. I'm sorry about that. We're bringing all our emo business from this past Taurus and even before Pisces season into Gemini season, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to air this shit out. This is also a card that can indicate a surprise, perhaps a happy surprise, because it's got a little fishy coming out of the cup. It's like you don't expect there to be a fish if you just go down and pick a cup of water out of the sea. This is also a heavily feminine sign. There's also lilies on the tunic, and for some reason, this is really, this is showing itself to me intuitively to be a lotus flower right now, and probably emblems of the lotus of the god of creation floating on the lotus in the middle of the ocean of creation at the beginning of time, and also the lotus being the seed that needs to go down to the muck at the bottom of the pond, like the really gross, nasty water and earth, super nutrient and organic material rich, dense sludge at the bottom of a pond. You need that in order for the lotus seed to blossom, because the lotus seed is so hard and tough that it seems like a rock or a pebble at first, until you get it in that really, really nutrient rich, nasty sludge. Nasty sludge that would kill anything else. But if you are a rock, that is the only thing that'll help you bloom into a beautiful lotus flower. I'm seeing like lotus flowers coming out of nowhere. Seeds blooming that you didn't even know you planted. I'm reading Casey's comment. This is very funny. I also, Pisces season wasn't awesome for me either, but it was stellium of Pisces. We had a Pisces stellium during Pisces season. So it is very much also Pisces is squared to Gemini. So as we move into this Gemini season, the airing out of all those things you're feeling might be very uncomfortable. So like find an artistic medium. I think that's why Pisces is so artistic. Maybe this could mean a surprising new medium that you're finding, making waves in. Watercolor. I don't know if you do watercolor, Casey, but like for some reason I'm getting that of like, try that again. It's Also, watercolor with salt is really fun to play with. And sometimes that can be how you air out your feelings. You don't need to feel them. You don't even need to consciously think what they're about. Just like be in the creative process, and that's enough of feeling your feelings. Yeah, it's a lot. But I do feel like this is going to be something fun, unexpected, cool. Maybe you're going to have to give yourself over to the process of creativity in order to find this transformation, or here's a word I can't, transfiguration. I don't know, something of transmuting the heavy water of Pisces and the really dense material of Taurus. Like, Taurus and Pisces is just giving me that nasty sludge at the bottom of the pond or the bottom of the lake stuff. And you need that fuel, that nastiness, that horrible. Nobody says they like pond scum, but like you need that in order for the lotus flower to win the Pisces season is finally reaching the surface of the pond and able to find the air, breathe a little bit, and start to bloom. We're going to transcend the muck. Absolutely. Oh, you just bought a new sketchbook and watercolors. That's so cute. I love that. And tie-dye, that's perfect. I want everyone on this stream to take after Casey and get into your fluid art medium. Find that transcendence through the fluid art, because we're reaching into the air part. We're reaching into the Gemini season where this is finally going to feel like a little bit of fresh air, of relief. The wind's changing finally. That's going to be really helpful, I think, moving forward in this Gemini season. Also, making connections in community. I think this is when you finally get to the surface of the pond, you realize that there are other flowers that have been blooming this whole time, but maybe you couldn't see each other underwater. I'm now getting out our liminal space postcards from the liminal space deck. Of course, its rock friend is the ocean jasper, which I find to be a very earthy feeling, watery feeling, really in your feels kind of. This is a stone I got from a therapist in the past. Like, when she stopped being a therapist to go follow her passion of being an energy healer that lived in a van and was mobile throughout the country. She was like, you graduated my therapy. Here's a stone to pronounce this one. And this has always kept it real with me the way that reason. Okay. Card quality that I really want to shuffle them real loud. Okay. Such a good quality. Okay. Let's see. Liminal space. What is going with our Page of Cups upright for the liminal space? For the cosmic weather. Somebody did a flip. Went right back in. For the cosmic weather coming in for the collective here. Okay. Oh! Breaking news. Not normal. Breaking news, not normal. I've never gotten this card. I think it's so funny. Not funny as in haha, but like breaking news, you're not normal. Breaking news, you are a divine being having a human experience. Breaking news. That's also such a Page of Cups. kind of thing, because this is all about surprise and things being out of the ordinary as well. The change of pace, breaking news, not normal. Let's see what our booklet has to say about that. I also like the implication with this that maybe the news cycle is not going to be normal. Perhaps we're going to hear some news stories that we never dreamed were possible in a good way. Because we have been breaking a lot of weather records. Maybe we can break a lot of records of understanding each other and empathy. Okay. Not normal. History tells a long and violent tale of normalized horror in all forms. And this period of history, individual well-being. For those that come after you in acknowledging what is unacceptable. You cannot change what happened, but you can make sure it doesn't happen again. Wow, that is powerful. That is definitely what I was just saying. I was just saying, hopefully this means the news cycle is going to change. That sounds exactly like we are freeing Palestine. We are breaking free of control of the oil monopolies. This sounds like we are actually going to change pace. This is maybe all the little tiny workings that have been going on in the background of Taurus season, all the little revolutionary sparks that have been igniting throughout the world right now are going to actually see some breaking news, breaking change in Gemini season. I also feel that this Gemini season trying to retrograding Pluto in Aquarius is maybe it's the last time we're going to be able to make change in such a material way. Maybe it's one of the last times that true, like, our millennial awareness of what revolutionary is and what it means to be revolutionary in your life and your choices. Maybe this is one of the last big pushes that is still going to work, and we're shifting into an age of Aquarius where things are going to happen in more of the digital air space, in more of the knowledge space. So it will be easier and harder to make change, but this is probably going to be a really concrete a concrete demonstration of what powerful shifts can happen when everybody starts care of yourself. And it gets worse when you make poor health decisions for yourself. Because the health of your body is reflected in the health of the global body, and so on and so forth. But what was the line? Be brave for those that come after you in acknowledging what is unacceptable. Show that the precedent has been set, that we won't stand for this kind of violence and negligence of human life and decency. I think we really are. This is a really hopeful, stuff is changing kind of reading, and I like it. Maybe this is why I had to be in cocoon space for the past 5 days. Now let's go to our optimistic manifestation deck type deal. I don't even know what to call it. It's just a deck I was gifted by a friend that is really positive. And sits with selenite, so I try to call in the connection to the divine through the crystal version of the fiber optic cable. This is just literally on the crystallography, and that is the scientific name for study of crystals. The crystallography level, this is functioning exactly the way that fiber optic cables function. It's also extremely powerful in magic, in spell work, in in performance as well. If you are performing in order to transmit something that you hope is aligned with the divine, then it's a really great crystal to integrate in performance and creativity. Um, let's see. It's not normal, and let me give this just a little shuffle, just a tiny little baby shuffle. These cards are kind of large. I have large hands, but they're pretty large cards. Okay, then we can shuffle. They're also nice and thick too. They're like for, I don't know. They remind me of how like baby books are made of like cardboard instead of paper. I don't know why that image is coming up, but like this is, maybe it's because they feel like the baby version of higher knowledge of like, yes, you can choose happiness. Yes, you actually can change the world with your thoughts. Yes, it is real. Yes, your happiness is sacred. Your joy is sacred. And that's not the same as happiness, but your joy is a path that's divine. Okay, I think that's the one that jumped out there. No, several jumped out here. I guess I'll take both of these. Okay. First one we've got is, it is my dominant intent to look for what I want to see. And while that sounds like confirmation bias, a lot of psychological things are just magical principles that we've put into science terms. As you deliberately look for things to appreciate, praise, or enjoy, you achieve vibrational harmony with your own source and with all that is good. And then the powerful law of attraction brings more good things to you. So, Benjamin Franklin to him. Just thinking about lightning more and more, you're probably more likely to get struck by lightning. But anyway, that's for my little joke, divinely. And then this one is beautiful. I don't know if I've pulled it before. It's got two people standing in the woods. Looks like somebody in pants and somebody in a dress, the two genders. A masculine and feminine energy in the woods, surrounded by, it looks like falling tree blossom petals swirling in a beautiful vortex around them, which is just such a beautiful, pretty spring anime vision. It says, desire is the beginning of all creation. In allowing your desire to come to you, you not only gain the satisfaction of having received it, you also gain a whole new perspective from which you desire more. In allowing your desire to come to you, you not only gain the satisfaction of having received it, you also gain a whole new perspective from which to desire more. So that really goes to, I mean, the principle in the first half of this card is this one. And I think that is the delivering of sometimes the gift is the ability to ask for a different gift. Sometimes all you get is the hope to be able to hope for more. And that's how the cycle can feed itself upwards. Cycles don't just have to go downwards. You can go in an upward spiral as well. The spiral imagery is really powerful here. Thinking of something popping out. I was thinking spiral momentum as everything of X and Y, where the swirling pop out, especially when we get into imaginary numbers. Now I'm talking about calculus, but if everybody knew calculus, wow, the world would be so much more peaceful, I think. It just really does mess up a lot of control paradigms if you understand how physics and calculus work. Oh, yes. I also want to highlight what Casey's saying here because I don't know much about psychology, but I love people who do. And Casey said, yes, going for my master's in psychology, BS in behavioral psychology, and emphasis on neuropsychology for master's. That's so cool. And I love it so much because I always reason through merging spirit with science. That is really cool. I want to know what you think about the Schumann resonances being the same frequencies as our brainwave frequencies. I think of the Schumann resonances as our brains, like as the brain. It's a reading of the brainwaves of the entire globe. And I think that is so cool. It's also really cool that people who are more sensitive to shifts in the Schumann probably have a brainwave makeup overall that is comparable to where the earth likes to sit itself. So yeah, maybe I think the connection of all four of these cards is probably that some big surprise is happening, and it is our job, some big trickster energy, Gemini, childlike trickster, but yes, is the baseline for our wave pattern. Yes, exactly. It is the baseline for our wave pattern. I think as if we concentrate on what we want to manifest, this is a time for not pointed manifestation of I would like X, Y, and Z to happen, but concentrating on the possibility of the vibes popping out whatever types of values we want to see next in the story of the globe. Like maybe we do a deep dive on ways that revolution has gone right. Maybe we do some reading about how somebody has transmuted trauma within their own life for the positive. Let's focus on if transcendence is a theme that's been coming up for you lately. Maybe this is the exact right time to really do a deep dive on figures of transformation or transcendence. Maybe do some reading about the stories of bodhisattvas or the saints in order to get your brain entrained on the wavelength of really powerful magical things happening in reality that actually occurred on Earth. Maybe because there is some big news that's coming. There's some big surprise that's going to pop out soon. So I think that our agency in that lies in where we put our attention, and where we put our attention is going to have some rhyming pattern or some resonance with what will pop out soon. Yes. Collective man flows of the Thank you so much. I also we're right there. I'm yes. Yeah, so I'm gonna take the time to go and focus on. Actually, a book came up to me in my dreams last night. A book that I had put down for a minute came to me in my dreams. It's called the Rewilding the Sacred Masculine, and by Sophie Strand, I believe. And I'm gonna go read that tonight because I want to focus on good, powerful embodiments of the sacred masculine, because that is a wound within myself that I need to heal. And I would like to personally, I'm going to take from this surprising breaking news, Page of Cups energy. I'm going to take that with, I'm going to focus on the ways that I can heal that particular thread in my life. And hopefully that will ripple outwards to healing the greater masculine and feminine oppression dynamic in the world, which would, obviously have an effect on the control paradigms and war paradigms that we're currently resisting. So whatever story is popping out for you right now, I encourage you to go. Oh, you were just reading about Siddhartha yesterday? Siddhartha's mother. Oh my God. And you are the transcendent person. You are celebrating me as well. This is so beautiful. I love this so much. I love you so much. I'm glad that our timelines have crossed. It's really, really powerful. And hibernation phase there. I had to prepare the physical body and the sinuses a little bit in order to come back, give this message. So thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. I love you very much. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you tomorrow evening. Goodbye.